Hello there, listeners. Sorry that it's been a while. I skipped a couple days. I guess it was 2 days. This is Jim the Keys Bartender coming to you from Florida Keys. Over the last 2 days, I attempted to make 2 shows. Twice to make 1 show. That's probably more correct. But what happened is, if you remember from the episode, I was coming to the thing and it was a cold I always kind of come down with for the last 30 years. Now, when I first started doing the show, it's going on 5, it'll be 6 years. It'll be 6 years. 4 years. It'll be 6 years this April. So I was getting these colds every year, at least once a season, normally just one. And over the last year, I did not get it. And I think a lot of that had to do with the masking and all that stuff, so I didn't get it. I just didn't get it, so I didn't have to. So when I started feeling that way on Monday and Tuesday, it's always presents itself the same way. When I say it presents itself, it has certain symptoms. They hit in a row. It's predictable, and everything happens that way. And this time, it seemed like even though I'm in as good a shape as I was maybe 9 years ago. 9 years ago, I was working out regularly then. Now I'm, physically, it hit me hard. It hit me so hard. I even missed a shift. It hit me hard. It's so easy to think when you start coming down with something that it could be COVID. But none of the symptoms were COVID-like. They were all cold ones. So I came back on the other side. So yesterday I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be going into work that night. Let me do it. I did a recording for 10 minutes and I'm just thinking, wow, my brain wasn't working. My brain wasn't working correctly. I wasn't happy with the first 9 minutes, so I went, deleted that, came back, and started again. And I did 24, 25 minutes. It was horrible. And you might say, listener, I understand. Jim, you've done horrible shows. How could you know this one was horrible? I don't know. I don't know why. I just knew it. I tried to do a segment of it was as if I was on heavy medication. And I wasn't on heavy medication. I got some prescription antibiotics. I took one of those and some Alka-Seltzer Plus. And it's just Alka-Seltzer Plus, for some reason, I get the way I handle the medication when it goes into my body, the over-the-counter medication, I just get a little bit loopy. Right now, I'm just on regular, thing to loosen up my chest. I taught my spin class today, and I'm fine. I'm on the way to recovery. I'm not 100% yet, but it's just so weird how the body handles it. Now, as I said before, the symptoms and the aftermath, they're all the same as for the last 30 years. But this time, it's maybe foreshortened because I'm not doing it. I'm trying to work it a little more intelligently. I'm staying away from as many dairy products as possible. I may even kick the dairy products. I don't know. I just haven't been doing well on that. And you're always trying to tweak it. If you're a person that watches what they eat, if you watch what you eat, you got to think about, or you consider, let's say, probably I'm more considerate of what I eat. I don't know if I watch what I eat, because you wouldn't necessarily go to McDonald's once a month if you watch what you eat. I consider what I eat. And now I'm considering I should cut back on the dairy. I don't have any real bad reactions to it. It's just one of those things. The body's like a car. I said this several years ago. Body's like a car. If you get the right prescription, you know what the right fluids to put into it, you know the right fuel to put into it, the right oil, the radiator fluid, the brake fluid, all these things. Well, for me, it's how I get my nutrients and what is reacting to me most. And I realize when I eat a lot of dairy, I don't want to get into it because, I realize you guys might be eating. But I just want to reduce the amount of inflammation in my body. And that's dairy. And I think red meat, I got to think about kicking the red meat and the pork and the chicken, fried food. I used to be able to, when I first came down here for years, I would spend about 15 hours in the gym during the week. And then I go and work. So I get up early in the morning. I get up at 6. Yes, I would get up at 6 and go to the gym when I didn't have to be in work until 4. Because I always want to knock the gym out. And work out for like 2, maybe 3 hours. Do some lifting and then an hour of cardio. I did that 4 or 5 days a week. Yeah, you do strange things when you're not drinking. I was just wanting to fill up the time. Now I got my side job, so I don't necessarily do that, but I realize how important it is. So I spend about, besides my spin instructing, which is 2 hours a week, I do another 4 to 5 hours in the gym. And you say, hey, for a guy with 4 jobs, or 3.5 jobs, you think about it, they're not 4 full-time jobs. I got 1 full-time job, 3 part-time jobs. So for a guy like that, where are you getting this time? I said, well, this is essential time. It's like sleeping. You got to sleep. You got to eat. I mean, you should feel as if you should groom. Personal hygiene is very important. I did mention eating. And working out is right in there. You got to put that right in there for certain people. For certain people, right? When you're younger, you may be fit, naturally fit. You may have a job that's very intensive and it was a full body workout. Yep, it's a possibility. You could be one of those kayaking guides or whitewater guides or climber or whatever. And when you're young, your work is your workout. But most jobs nowadays, considering all the tools we have and things like that, you don't get a full body workout. And for me, that's important, meaning I don't want to have like a particular part of my body weak. I bartend. I got to lift the keg. Every so often I have to lift the keg, a case of beer. I'm turning in an awkward way, so I got to keep my core strong, my shoulders, my arms, my legs, ankles. Ankles are important. I always used to have these horrible, horrible sprains every other year. I twist my ankle the wrong way. And it felt like it was broken. It felt like it was broken because it was when you do your sprained ankle. I've had some broken bones in my hand and in my feet, on my toes actually, more on my toes. So I've never had a major bone broken yet. Yeah, I realize I'm getting up there. That you say, hey Jim, you're getting up there. Someday you might be that person on life alert. I've fallen and can't get up. Yeah. Because I felt plenty of time where I should have felt like I broke my hip. Several years ago, the dumbass in me, I'm getting out of my car and at a bank. I'm parked right near the entrance. There is a sidewalk and there's a cutaway for someone who's coming up with a wheelchair. They have these low cutaways on these sidewalks. And I see a woman walking up to the bank, and she's going to get there like a second before me. But I want to be a gentleman and open the door. So I jump out of my car and I run up to open the door. And I see the cutaway when I get in my car, but I don't see the rise on the left. So I don't adjust my step, and I hit it, and I fall right down on my hip and kind of roll on over. And it hurt like a mother. I'm not going to say it. It hurt. It hurt. But there were people watching. So what do people do when you fall down and you get hurt? And I pop right up. Pop right up. So, I'm fine. I go into the bank. I kind of mask my limp and walk up, do my banking business, fill out my banking slip and all that stuff. And people, they're still asking me, "Are you all right? You sure you're all right?" I mean, the manager of the bank's here. They're thinking, "Oh my gosh, this person fell in front of the bank." And they must have knew right away. It says, like, this guy is not going to do anything. So, and for a couple days, my hip hurt. And I think, shit, if I broke my hip at 55, this was 3 years ago, I think, 4 years ago. And that would just be the most, I don't know, that would have been the most telltale sign that, hey, Jim, you're fucking getting old. I mean, to this day, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how hips heal when they break. I think they more crack than that. I did that stupid thing when I was on the cruise ship, when I was with my oldest niece, who was in her mid-20s at the time, or late 20s at the time, and we were on a scavenger hunt. And at one point, the host on the cruise ship said, "Do the worm." And I dove belly first onto a wooden floor, or wooden planks on the floor. And I must have cracked a rib. Because for the next 5 weeks, I had a hard time breathing. And that's another thing. That's another thing. That could happen to anybody. But me diving, belly first onto a wooden floor when I was 243 pounds, that is not a smart thing to do. It is not. Right? I mean, I could more likely do that now, probably with the same results, but I'm about 25 pounds lighter. I probably still had the same effects with that, even with the working out, core workout. But I don't want it to suck all the time up here. So what I'm saying with the illness and stuff, I guess I wasn't doing 4 episodes a week when I got sick. When I first started doing the podcast, I probably had this 2 years, and then the last 2 years with COVID, with the mask wearing, I don't know if that's the reason, but I did not get this cold last year. I haven't had this cold last year. So maybe I always have like remnants of the protection of it. Whatever. I'm feeling much better right now, and it seems like it's about to be out of my system. It was more intense than before. Knocked me back more because the way I use the over-the-counter stuff, I used to be able to go into work and not, right in the midst of it. Just, I'm clicking my fingers now. But I would just go and work, drink some coffee, boom, I'm good. I couldn't do it. I went in on Wednesday, and the boss said, "Hey, Jim, you can't work tonight. You're barely able to work the afternoon." So she was right, and it did me well to get home, and I'm ready for the weekend. And we're rolling into the holidays, which I got to be all right for that. We are rolling into that with some really good weather. It's really warm down here in the Keys. The conditions have been great from what I understand for boating and fishing, time at the sandbar. So I had to be ready for that. And we haven't quite gotten back our foreign tourists yet, so we could still get an even bigger influx of people, even with some, uptick in new coronavirus infections. I think we're looking at a very busy season, but I don't know. The proof is in the pudding after it's done. Now, what I talked about on the other shows that I didn't feel were adequate enough to release to you, and I won't release now. If I'm recording this one right now, if I didn't think this was adequate, I'm into it almost 16 minutes, I would just put it in the can and never release it. I got about 12 shows like that, and they're horrible. They're absolutely horrible. I realize that I'm self-aware enough to realize my podcast could be used for, if there's probably, I know there's a university out there to teach podcasting. They teach broadcasting and saying, this is how you do a podcast. This is how you don't do a podcast. I realize some people may take my shows and say, listen to this guy. This is the way not to do a podcast. You hear him say, pause, repeat himself. Uses wasted words. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm not going to worry about that because this is a different genre of podcasting. This is not broadcasting. It's not like I'm doing the King's Speech. There was a movie about 5-6 years ago, I think it was, called The King's Speech. Colin Firth was starred in it. It was King George the 5th or 6th. He took over for his brother right before World War II. His brother, Duke of York, who married Wallis Simpson, the American divorcee, and he had to step down from the throne, and he had his brother take over, Bertie Albert, who became George. I think became King George the 6th. Took a new name. So he had a serious stutter, and he couldn't speak in public. And eventually he hired a thespian, an Australian thespian who was a dialogue coach, a speech therapist. Before there were speech therapists, but I guess he would be more of a dialogue coach. And it was Jeffrey Rush was playing that, and Helen Bonham Carter was the queen. The queen was who eventually we would know. People that know Helen Bonham Carter was the Queen Mother who died like 20 something years ago, or about 20 years ago. She was 100 and something. But once again, I do what I like to do, digress. Now, he was the King of England, and he barely could speak. He had a horrible stammer, a stutter and a stammer. I guess the stutter is when you do that, and the stammer is just stopping your talk. You can't just... So, and supposedly Churchill had the same problem. So it's all on your cadence, what you're thinking about, how you let the words flow. So a broadcaster would say, this guy does not have what it takes. See, I'll just go and repeat myself. I'm not going to edit that out. I'm not have what it take, have not what it takes. Doesn't have what it takes to be a broadcaster. People say, no, you can't do it. Well, that's what I heard yesterday. I heard the most horrible parts of the things I don't like about my speaking. I don't necessarily like listening to my podcast. I don't like the sound of my voice. You may feel the same way about yours. I do not like the sound of my voice. I never thought I could sing. I hated singing. I remember in 5th grade, Sister Angelina, it was 4th or 5th grade in Our Lady of Good Counsel. And Sister Angelina was a Felician nun. Yeah, it sounds a lot like fellatio, but Felician nun who was, I swear to God, at the time, she looked like she was 90 years old. She was 4'10". Used to, whenever she blew her nose, she'd take the handkerchiefs and stuff them up her sleeves. And I seen her blow her nose like 4 or 5 times and then stuff the handkerchief up her sleeve, her snotty. And then she was just, I'll tell you, if I had to base my perception on what a vocation in the church would be on her attitude, it would have been, and I'm sorry to say this, I mean, so many people would have thought, is this what it's like to be the bride of Jesus? I'm not saying Jesus would be a horrible husband or anything like that, but Sister Angelina would lead you to believe that. But she was one of those people that said, she thought nothing of it, like in the middle of the thing. Why don't you get up and sing the America the Beautiful? Or, I don't remember, my country to, whatever. Or some religious church song. I mean, besides having to go up and diagram a sentence, that was a nightmare to me because I could not figure out. I mean, eventually I would figure out what a verb is and a noun, but I had this, I don't know how I made it, how I advanced to get to high school. Now I can diagram a sentence. I understand the concept. But when they were thinking about what, I was looking at that diagram and I would think, you're going to call me up and I have no idea what this means. A subject? I understand what a noun is, a person, place, or thing. A pronoun. A noun that lost its amateur status, right? You heard that joke before. Had to become pro. But prepositions, verbs, adjectives, things like that. I had a loose interpretation or understanding of the concept. And Sister Angelina, once you were a bad singer or a bad sentence diagrammer, she'd call you up and just ridicule you. And she wasn't above hitting you with her big ass wooden ruler. It could have been a regular size wooden ruler, but she was so small it could have looked like a baseball bat to me. But I'm not here to shit on the memory of Sister Angelina. And there were some other nuns I knew that were very sweet. There was Sister Denise at Archbishop Brian. She wasn't one of my teachers, but she was more of a mentor. Sister Denise was very nice. And Sister Mildred, I think her name's Sister Mildred, from Our Lady of Calvary. And she was hot. And when I say hot, she was hot and sexy. You could be, I don't think this Pope will tell you me saying that Sister Mildred was hot. I think, she used to sunbathe and all that stuff. She was an older woman too. She was in the late 30s, early 40s. Always an very attractive woman. That's all right. It's all right to say these things. Right? It must be very hard for the people to do that as a nun or a priest. I'm not one of these people. I guess I'm one of those people that look good in certain lights. And sometimes for me, and you'll understand the loose interpretation, I've seen some priests, and the girls used to go nuts over this one priest at St. Catherine's. This Father Joe, I think his name was Father Joe. He didn't do our wedding, but he was a nice guy. And I don't know why he would become a priest with that celibate thing. And he definitely didn't look like he was interested. Maybe I always had a theory that sometimes these guys go into the priesthood because they don't feel a strong attraction to women. Right? And they never considered that they could be attracted to, the same sex. So they said, well, might as well. I can make a good living as that. If I'm not interested in that, and they said, well, I'm not going to consider men because I'm not interested. They just never tried. So But I was always strongly attracted to women. That does not make me more of a man. I realize that. I just knew that it was a barrier to me being a priest, a Catholic priest. And that was the biggest hurdle. Maybe the other thing was not necessarily believing in everything too. So that would have been I still consider myself a Catholic because I'm a lapsed Catholic, or cafeteria Catholic, you call them. I don't mean to piss off you other Catholics out there, because the highest ideas behind it are wonderful. And how the hell did I get there? I was talking about Sister Angelina and all that stuff. I don't know. I don't know where I got, so I'm just going to leave it right there. That story just ended like blank. Like I fell off the top of the skyscraper and hit the ground like a sack of potatoes. I want to talk about a subject I started yesterday's show that you'll never hear, about setting up a bar. And I'm not talking about a bar in a restaurant. I'm talking about at a party. Christmas party season is here. And you may think it could be your first time that you have a party. It could be your second, it could be your third, and it could be your fourth. And you go, hey, Jim, what should I have? You're the Keys bartender. What should I have to serve my guest? Well, you know your friends better than I do. You do. And if they're beer people, have the beer they drink. If they're Bud Light and things like that, if they're IPAs and all that, oh my God, good luck with that. You're probably going to do better by just getting cases of beer. If you had friends like mine in Philadelphia, I used to get a keg of Bud Light. Big keg of Bud Light, put it in a big plastic barrel, ice it down. And that was that. Well, and hopefully with that keg, we'd like to call it, you want to get that keg to float. When I say when you get that keg to float, you put all this ice in there and it's sitting and it turns to water. At the end of the party, it should be floating on that water because everyone should have drank that. Otherwise, don't get a keg. Get a quarter keg. Let's get back to the drinks. If you get a lot of people that drink vodka and stuff like that, make sure you have vodka. Make sure you have club soda. Have some 7-Up or something like that. 7-Up, Sprite, Coke, or Pepsi, whatever. Some people say, hey, listen, if you're drinking sugar water, if you're addicted to Coke over Pepsi, I'm sorry about that. But if you're drinking, that's just the way. Have some diet. Have a orange juice, maybe. But you can't have everything. You can't have everything. Let me tell you one thing. Unless you have someone who's going to be like a guest of honor, a girlfriend, a best friend, family members that are going to attend, and they only drink one thing, get that thing if they're important enough for you to buy that thing and have most of the bottle left. Otherwise, all you need is vodka, a little rum. I wouldn't mess around with tequila because, people don't make themselves margaritas unless you pre-mix the margaritas. Have some white wine. You could put I know some people have a tough time with that, but people that drink Chardonnay, a lot of times they'll drink Sauvignon Blanc. Right? You can get that. Or the Pinot Grigio. For red wine, a Cabernet. Like I said, if you have a guest of honor coming and they got a particular wine they like, you can go and do that too. But watch out. People are weird when it comes to wine. Because if you look like you have some good wine there, someone that normally doesn't drink wine may look, oh, this looks like good wine, I'll drink this. Right? It's a party, they're drinking for free. You don't have to have everything top shelf for somebody. There's a party I went to several times. This guy had this Christmas party down here, and he would have really good vodka. Just have lots of vodka. He had about 8 different bottles of vodka. And all the good stuff. Kettle, Tito's, Goose. And some flavored ones too. Because, yeah, vodka's it. Vodka's the number one liquor in the world. That's all you need. I mean, at least in the United States. Yeah, sure, there's different places around here where rum's big, whiskey's big, bourbon's big, scotch is big. But by and large, vodka far outsells all those things. And sometimes it outsells all of them as a group. So that's why you see all these specialty vodkas out there, handmade vodkas and shit like that. So if you got your vodka, may get gin, but you'd be surprised. Don't be shocked by how few people drink gin nowadays. If you get a bottle of gin, you may not even have anybody drink any of it. So you just need the core of those things. And you got to portion out when you're doing it. If you invited 100 people, hopefully you'll have 100 people. I mean, some of them bring friends. So I always had about the people I thought, like I put out a general invite. I expect 80. A lot of times it would be like from 70 to 100 people, maybe more. One party, I don't even remember the end of it. That was the one where I woke up the next day. And it was in a big loft apartment. Let me set the scene for you. It's a shame we didn't have cell phones there. It's a good thing we didn't have cell phones then, because I didn't like the idea that nowadays, whenever you're doing anything wrong, there always seems to be someone ready to snap a picture of you. And why wouldn't they? Because you have that opportunity. I guess that's the way it is. Well, we had over 20-foot ceilings. And my best friend and roommate said, hey, we should get a big Christmas tree. And I said, I'll be on that. And that was the time I went to my friend's Christmas tree lot. He sold trees to the public, and he also sold trees to other Christmas tree lots. It was a big lot in Northeast Philadelphia. And I had this small station wagon I borrowed from the company I was working at. And it had a roof rack. And I don't know what I was thinking, because it wasn't a full-size station wagon, but it was still a station wagon. And I went over and I said, hey, listen, I'm going to get a big tree. And he goes, I'll give you a deal. Any tree here, no more than $50. No, he said, no more than $50, depending on what I said, no, I'm going to get a big tree. He goes, no more than $50, anything you fit on your car. So I got the biggest tree we got there, and he charged me $50. He looked at me and goes, you got that tree? That's a $120 tree. And I go, oh, well, I'll pay more. And he goes, no, I said $50. I didn't think you were going to take it because of the car you had. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, the top of the tree is going to be on, whatever way I put it. I think I put it in stump facing forward and the top of the tree facing back. And it looked a lot like the Grinch's sleigh with that big-ass tree they took from the center of Whoville. And I had to look out of the corner of the windshield, and luckily there was my friend Frank Maricone and his brother were helping me. They ended up passing by and see me with this big ass tree, and they helped me tie up the tree. And then they went to my loft apartment, and we took the tree there. And I had the big industrial elevators. It was like a 12-foot elevator, even though the tree didn't really fit in there. But I didn't want to have to take it up the steps. So I did that. I took it. I kind of winded it around that elevator. Got it. It was about I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe, I don't even think how tall it was. About 16 feet tall. Yeah, 16 feet tall. How do you get a 16-foot tree up? Well, what we did was we got one of those keg barrels that you put kegs into. Filled that up with water. Then I put a rope around the top of the tree and hoisted it over a drain pipe that was near the window. And I also we decorated the tree a little using ladders and kind of a hoist to hoist myself up to get to the top of the tree to get decorations on there and the lights. So the people of Mayfair who I invited to my party when they showed up that day, and I'll talk about the liquor and all that stuff, they were very impressed by the tree. Even though it was all accidental, it should have been a 12-foot tree. I shouldn't have had a 16-foot tree. Because in the end, when we were getting rid of the tree, we had to get a chainsaw, had to cut it down. We had the big industrial windows that would not crank out, they just open out. There were 5-foot wide windows. You open them up, and we just threw the pieces down, and I went down after we cut it up and tie up the pieces and leave it on the sidewalk down there. To this day, I don't know. I hope they did pick it up, but I'm sure they did. It's been over 24 years, 27 years probably. Well, yeah, that brought me. So we had the liquor. I think that way. I didn't have all crazy types of liquor. I got like 4 bottles of vodka, 2 bottles of rum, wine, the keg, and then other people brought their own stuff. Just remember, people will bring a bottle of liquor with them every so often. If every second or third person brings something like that, you almost always never run out of stuff. So you always have enough for, like, let's say, like I said, 100 people showed up, maybe 120. That one in particular with the big tree, I think I had 120 people show up. And that was around 11, 12, 12:30. I think I forgot what was happening. I was just started dating a girl. It was a weird time to start dating a girl right before Christmas. And I woke up the next morning and I see my coworker in bed with me, a woman. And it was Christmas Eve, the morning of Christmas Eve. I was very depressed. Now, she was dressed. I thought maybe she stayed there and she got in an argument with her husband or something like that. And I said, oh my God, this is going to be so awkward and stuff like that. And I'm just sitting there. I'm thinking about the whole narrative playing in my head. What am I going to do? How am I going to go into work? What am I going to say to her? Blah, 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 blah. And then I look over and it says, oh, wait, this is the girl I started dating like a week ago. Or 2 weeks before. Oh, we went out on 3-4 dates. We really didn't do anything. We didn't consummate the relationship. Yeah, we never really consummated the relationship. And we ended up not even seeing each other after that. I think she was, as rightly so, she should have been pissed off. I think she was left behind by a ride. The guy she was seeing got tremendously drunk at his own party, and she had no place to sleep, so she slept in the bed next to her, fully clothed. So, there's several lessons to learn. First of all, you don't need all that liquor, crazy stuff. I don't mean saying drinking it. If you are throwing a party, you should remember what I said to you many times before. You are your own worst bartender. What I'm meaning to say is that you usually overserve yourself. If you're responsible. If you're responsible, then you will not have a problem. I was not responsible. But if you think of the rule of thumb, think about the amount of people, and you have friends that are kind of chintzy and they invite people that are, hangers-ons and ne'er-do-wells, they may come empty-handed. Then you could run out of stuff. I had that happen a couple times at a party where I had to go and run and get a couple kegs or a couple cases of beer. But not at one of these parties. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I'd like to thank you for listening. I think this went much better than yesterday. I'd like to also thank all those listeners that we have that don't download these extra episodes. When you download a bunch of episodes and things like that, it just raises, and I say this all the time, it raises the visibility of the show. We get placed differently. It's exciting. And I do. Keep on doing it if you can. Share it with friends. Share it with someone that might be interested in the show. You say this fucked up guy in Key Largo is, the only reason why I check explicit is so I can say fucked up at the end of the show. And I apologize. It's just the word. It's just a word. I'm not talking about the act. of intercourse. I'm talking about screwing up. Sometimes I use words that are inappropriate. When I say inappropriate, that are big words, and it looks like I'm just making it up. It says he's just trying to do it that sounds smart. No, that's the word I think about at that time. And other times, when instead of saying screw up, I like to say fucked up, and I like to check the box. And I know I may not gain any listeners from that, but it's just a word. You know, fudge. When you say fudge up or frickin', you're meaning fucking. So it's the meaning behind it, not the words itself. You know, just like the Southerners. When Southerners say bless your heart, that means fuck you. You know, when someone says bless your heart, that's that Southern way of saying fuck you. It's on the intent. But your intent, downloading those extra episodes, it means the world to me. Thank you very much. Keep on doing it. If you haven't done it yet, please do. Spread it around. It helps with the listenerships in your region, too. In your region, wherever you are. And we're getting a lot of listeners. It's really interesting where they come from every so often. We get I'm getting some from the Baltic states. I got someone from the Ukraine. No one from Belarus. I was getting people from Russia. I don't get Russia anymore. I guess we're kind of not getting along with it. But Poland, I got my wife has relatives in Poland, so I think my nephew-in-law, Bartek, may be listening, or Bartek, the runner, who's a friend of friends in Warsaw. And there's Justina, Carolina. Oh gosh, who else? Gosh, all those people. I do appreciate those. And I appreciate the people in those other countries too. Latvia. I don't know. I got Latvia, but not Lithuania. Not Estonia yet. Haven't had a listener in Estonia. I like to have that talent in Estonia. And Ukraine, thank you. I know you got a lot going on in Ukraine. You got a bunch of Russians on the outside there. Hopefully, a prediction right there. It's either it seems like a replay of the Czech crisis prior to World War II. And that's when Hitler was making his moves early on, before he started invading things. He was just taking them, and the British and the French and are trying to negotiate with him. And that's kind of like Vladimir Putin. I don't think Putin has a grand strategy of Russifying Eastern Europe, but I think he does want to expand its influence. It's not as deep and thorough, but he does want to reestablish the Russian Empire, or the Soviet Empire, probably more likely. It's a thorn in his side that independent Ukraine is there and might do well without Russia. But it's things like this, the way that he's behaving, the Russians are behaving in Ukraine, that causes these former republics to go back and rethink their association with Russia. If you have someone, if you elect a body, if you're in the Russian Federation, right, there's different regions and stuff like that, and people say, well, listen, they don't like our government, so they're going to change it for us. Well, good luck. And I hope that we help out, and I hope we hold the line. But you know what? The one thing people talk about, we got to do something to show we're strong and stuff like that. Well, how many people are you willing to lose? Right? How many people are you willing to lose for your country? If you want to keep your enemy out, that's the commitment you have to make. If I had someone trying to break in my house and I did not resist him, why would I expect some other neighbor to come over and resist him? You get the analogy? I don't know where I got there from that, but I do wish him well. I do hope we help him out. I hope it doesn't come what looks like it's going to happen there in the new year. So, and I hope I don't lose any listeners, but I don't think I'm going to get a ton of listeners from. I hope I can get some more from Ukraine and Poland. Maybe the Czech Republic. I think Czech Republic's and Slovak. I haven't had any of those. I had some in Albania and Bosnia. Let's get some of those too. But more to the point again. Thank you for the downloads. Keep it up. And have a great day. I'll be back next week. This is the third episode. If time allows, I'll do one this weekend, on tomorrow. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day. Bye.